This is James.
Yay!
Yay!
Good job, Bob.
Hi, family. Good to see you.
We can't hear you.
I can turn it up on the thing.
Oh, can you turn it up?
Hey?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if we need to. Hey, who are you?
I'm Ryder.
What's up? I just have a couple quick memories of Grandma that I'm thankful for, and then a more big picture idea that I'm thankful for. And that is, I remember as a kid that she made me eat my vegetables. And not that my mom or dad didn't, but Grandma had a special enforcement that was respected, maybe a little bit more than my immediate family. And I would always try and hide my vegetables, and she'd always uncover them and figure it out. And so I would put them in my mouth and in my tongue, and she'd make me open my mouth and check all the surfaces to make sure that I'd eaten them. The only time I ever got away with it was when I figured out that if you use your napkin and just pop out the vegetables into the napkin and then crumble it and hide it under the table, sometimes you get away with it. And so, but vegetables are good for you kids, and I love vegetables now, and so I'm thankful that she made me eat them. The other thing I remember that I'm fond of is that when we were living in the area, I would come over in the mornings and go in the hot tub with her first thing in the morning, and then get out, and she would soak me with cold water from the hose and soak herself and said it was good for you. And I hated it, but I also loved it at the same time. I don't know why. And to this day, I finish my showers cold, and it's great. It's great. Grandma has an impact on me there. But I think the big picture thing about Grandma that I'll always remember is her faith. And I think that's the big picture thing, because faithfulness is generational. And so when we if you're a Bible reader and you read in 1 Timothy, Paul's telling Timothy that remember the faith of your grandmother and your mother, because he was raised by those two. And I can say that Grandma's faith has permeated generations of people, and like we said earlier, not just immediate family, but people that needed help. And I can say, like Timothy, that my grandmother's faith directly influenced my mother and father in a way that their parenting and their faithfulness influenced me. And it was something that I could hold on to even when I was being a knucklehead for many years, trying to do everything I can to run away from the Lord. It's something that was always there that I could never get free from. Even I tried everything to just be a rebel and do all the things I wanted to do in this world, but couldn't shake it. And the Lord never let go of me. And I think it's because there's a generational faith that was cultivated in this family because of her faithfulness. So I just want to celebrate her and say thank you, Lord, for that woman.
Thank you all for coming here today. That's it. Got it?
Should ask you to say anything.
Say, does anybody want to
Yeah,
say
ask
a
if
quick
anybody wants to
word?
say anything.
What's your
Ryder?
name?
I'm Jen.
Here's Jen.
Thank you. You're quite the host. Thank you. So I have a ton of fond memories of Grandma. Especially, we'd spend the weekends over at her house a lot with Pa, of course. And one of my favorite things was after lunch, she would always say, "Okay, girls, let's have our salad." And to Grandma, salad was chocolate-covered peanuts. And they were so delicious. But also my favorite memory was when she's working for Amway back in the day. She had the best lavender powder that she would throw in the jacuzzis. So we'd all be coughing the night away, but we'd always count the planes together and just have a great time. And she'd always give us one Mento before bed. Yes, I do not have diabetes yet. But my most favorite thing about Grandma is that she'd always pray for us and with us. And I love that no matter who we meet on the street, Grandma would share Jesus' love with them. And there's one time in particular, I'll keep this short, but we had just come from the In-N-Out drive-thru. We're heading up North Loop, and we see a woman who was battered on the side of the road. Without hesitation, Grandma said, "Come with us, get in the car." Me being 5 years old, like, okay, who's this lady? But it just goes to show that Grandma really was the hands and feet of Jesus through her whole life, and I'm just so grateful that her legacy is going to carry on through all of us. And yeah, I love Grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
This is Farron.
Woohoo!
Hello. Like he said, my name is Farron. So when my mom asked me to say my favorite thing about my grandma, I couldn't think of just one. So I figured I would tell you all the things. And then also kind of like the experience of being her grandchild. When you would go to Grandma's house, you would be greeted by one of her infamous jokes, like Jillian had mentioned, followed by one of her wonderful hugs, which always included a mini back rub. There was always freshly made cookies in her tins, like in her kitchen. And not just like one type of cookie, there was like chocolate chip, and then like a random cookie with all these ingredients. And you go there thinking like, oh, she made them for us. No, she didn't. She made them for her mom. Like, lucky, like we got to like.
Your timing was just good.
Yeah. So there are memories I will hold near and dear, like going to Grandma's over the summer for weeks on end with my cousin Christina. We would go in the orchard, we'd be there all day, playing in the tree house. We wouldn't even go back to the house because we were, I guess we're too lazy to go to the bathroom and just dig a hole. You know? Do it. We don't want to go back. We don't have time for that. They had the best fresh squeezed orange juice. Let's see. Sitting next to Peter the Heater, which all my cousins would know, which was their heater on the floor. She called it Peter the Heater. Like Jen said, after dinner you would always get what their version of salad was, which was chocolate. You know, they never really ate salad, it was chocolate. Going to Grandma's for a holiday, wearing my, Sunday best, and then waiting. Mom, can I please change my clothes? Like, go play in the orchard? Take that outfit off. Hearing her sing, play the trumpet or the piano. First time I saw her without her wig, that was pretty traumatizing. She was always happy and warm and always had a huge smile on her face. And a silly joke she heard, we love you and miss you, Gladys. And we can't wait to see you in heaven one day. Thank you for being my grandma.
Well, my mom's favorite, I was asked to say my mom's favorite Bible verse. And her favorite Bible verse is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Now I'm going to whoever believes on him will not perish.
Why don't we
but
say
have
it all together?
everlasting life. And it goes on to say that he sent his son Jesus into the world, not to condemn the world, but to save the world. When I was growing up, and I don't know, my sister Lori, who's the Sherlock Holmes of the family, she has all the details. There was a thing that happened, and I don't know what age I was, Lori, when Dad had his accident.
In high school.
I was probably high school.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I was
don't
20.
remember what I had for breakfast, so.
I was 20.
Yeah. So anyways, I remember vaguely what happened. My dad was down in the orchard. He was in a walnut tree picking walnuts, and he was by himself. And the branch that he was standing on gave way, and he fell 20 feet straight down, landed on his feet, and his legs went into his back. He was airlifted to Cedars-Sinai Hospital. And when my mom got to the hospital, the doctors told her the news. It was pretty traumatic, but she was told that it would be a very, very delicate surgery. They could do surgery on him, but he would never walk again. And my mom, when you have a ranch and you have a bazillion kids, and your husband's the sole provider, that kind of made for a bad day. So, I thought to myself, when I was thinking about this, I'm like, what would I have done? Called all my friends, called family, you know, freaked out. But what did my mom do? My mom told me that she got home, she went into her room, got on her knees, and she called out to the only person that could help her, and that was her daddy God. And I say that was her daddy God because there's a lot of us that are Christians, but we really don't know our daddy God. And she did. And that was a big difference. She knew that she was one of the ones who called upon the name of the Lord. She was one of the ones that, God so loved the world. She was part of that world, which included everyone. And she was one of those, and she was one of the whosoevers. And when she was in her room, she told me, when she called out to God, she said to him, just a regular conversation actually, she said, you know, if you want me to raise these kids by myself, I can do all things through Christ. And I'll do it. But I don't want to. And she said immediately when she said that, she felt the presence of Jesus in her room. Her room got so incredibly bright that she couldn't even open her eyes. And she felt this amazing peace come over her. And she knew that she knew everything was going to be all right. Well, back at the hospital, when my dad was prepared for surgery, it just so happened that the day he was going into surgery, the #1 top back doctor in the country was touring Cedars-Sinai Hospital. And on his tour, he ran into my father. And he looked at the case and he said, I'm taking this surgery. He changed his plans and he went into surgery. The surgery was very difficult. It was a very long surgery. And during the surgery, they thought they lost him because he got the hiccups. And as they were working on his back, his body was hiccuping. And they kind of did lose him because she told me that during the surgery, he left his body and he looked down and he saw the doctors working on him. But he was told it wasn't time. And he went back. When my father was ready to leave that hospital, he walked out of the hospital. That was the God that my mom knows. That was my mom. I say knows because she's with him right now. She did not die. She actually just changed locations. And that's where she is right now. And the good news is for those of us that do believe, that's exactly what's going to happen to us. And my mom, she knew that she did some amazing things. My sister talked about him. I mean, the other kids talked about him. She did some really good things, but she wasn't completely perfect. I mean, she did some things that weren't so good, you know, like all of us. I mean, she could be rude. She could be bossy and pushy, and you know, she broke the speed laws regularly. Any resemblance is pure coincidental. But anyhow, but she knew that her daddy loved her regardless. She knew that when she accepted Jesus into her life, she was saved by grace. It had nothing to do with her works, had nothing to do with all the people she helped. It had everything to do with not how good she was, but how good Jesus is. And that's the way it is for every single one of us, regardless of what you've heard at church. It's God's amazing grace. How sweet it sounds. And right now we're going to go in the other room. We have a pianist that's going to be playing some of Grandma's favorite songs. And one of those songs that we're going to all sing together in honor of my mom is Amazing Grace. We'll sing some songs. There's going to be desserts afterwards. There are some videos that Monique found that are unbelievable for the grandkids. You guys have to watch these. But anyways, we're going to go into the other room right now.
Okay.
All right? Okay.
Ready, you want to say ain't that treatment? You want to say you ain't that treatment?
Can you pass these up?
Hello. Good. Yan guys, yan ang program. Funeral ng aking pasyente. Yan. Totoo yan. Napakabait ng alaga ko. Hello! Hi! Beautiful!
How are you?
I took some video for the family. Oh! And kakanta kami ng Amazing Grace daw.